Woohoo! Oh, good morning, everyone. It's kind of a nice morning, isn't it? Although this time of year, I'm super sleepy, and then I was on last night, so even though it was a silent night at the hospital, I still am super sleepy. So we'll just, all sorts of vigor this morning. We will inhabit it. We will embody it. So here's the thing. You already have all the answers, right? Do you believe me? Who believes me? No? No, you already...
questions are.
Right, yeah. 42, no. You already have all the answers, right? Yeah. So, is there anyone who believes that they have? Yeah, okay. All right, those who believe it, what do you believe when I say you already have all the answers?
That everything that we need to know is what.
Oh, okay.
You just have to unlock it.
Oh, you just have to unlock it. Yeah, okay. All right, well, we're going to be exploring this today, and I brought some cards. You don't get to keep your card, so you're going to have to give it back. But I'm going to invite you. You don't have to do this if this feels too weird or whatever, but I'm going to invite you to just really randomly pull a card. Like, don't think about it, just pull the top one. Okay? What we're enacting here, I'm going to prove to you that you already have all the answers. And then we'll explore what the heck that means. So this is, I'm using what are they called? I mean, they're basically market researchers, qualitative researchers, what they call projective techniques. Okay, the idea of projective techniques, like if you're in a focus group and people show you photographs of something and say, what does it make you think? Because they're trying to figure out the brand, right? They're trying to figure out whether their new soda pop is fresh or alive, right? So projective techniques are these methods that both tarot readers, guilty as charged, and market researchers employ, which is to sort of demonstrate, right, that we have stuff in us that we project outward onto the world, right? I mean, like that notion of projection from psychology, that we project interior states that we're maybe dimly or not even at all aware of onto the world. So we look at the world and we say, everyone's in a bad mood today. Well, no, maybe I'm in a bad mood today. So when you get your card, the invitation here is to say to yourself, how is this about me? How is this about me? So take a look at your card when you get it. How is this about me? Can folks in their card, whatever their card is, do folks see something that reflects how this is about them?
No.
No. Okay. So I'm going to say on you, I'm going to say sit with that. Okay? Sit with that image. How is that about me? How is that about my life right now or about something that I'm chewing on? Okay? Yeah, no, you don't get to try. Okay. Did you say upsell? Excellent, excellent. So I mean, whether this floats your boat or not, we're not all inspired by visual imagery. We're not all people who are like, yeah, okay, I can see something here, I can see it. That's not for all of us. Word association is another way that this happens. People say a word and say the next word that's in your mind. There are lots of ways in which projective techniques work, but just that kind of general principle that we find in the world something inside us, only we see it out there, right? Does that make sense? So what the heck is that? What the heck is it about the way the human mind heart works that we find in the world something that we needed to find? How is that possible? This question is actually the central question of our tradition. It's what marks our tradition as a wisdom tradition, a tradition that is interested in grappling with how we know what we come to know. How is it possible that we ever find answers? And when we find answers, how is it possible that we go, oh, that's the answer? How is that possible? that question actually is the central question of our tradition and what marks it as our tradition, what marks our tradition as a wisdom tradition. And I want to try to respond to that question today, to answer it, but it's not really an answer. This is how my talk started. I don't know if you can see this. This is something I picked up from Hojo-san. This is, if you've ever seen Hojo-san's notes for his Dharma talks, they do not look like normal notes. They look like things like this. But what, and I can't remember how he showed me this exactly, but what it became for me is, it's basically a mandala where I start with what is the idea for me that's kind of the bell, ding, that set things off at the center. And then there are sort of 4 points across. If you've ever taught or taken a composition class, this is actually the structure of a 5-paragraph theme, but it's in mandala shape, right? It's like there's something at the center, and then really, you know, it's all about how I'm circumambulating this thing at the center, this question at the center, which I wrote down. You already have the answers. That's what at the center here is. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do with us today, is to circumambulate this central question of wisdom. How do I find the answers? How, when I find the answers, do I know that they're answers? How do I know what I need to know? So one way, I'm at the upper left corner of my mandala right now, one way is through prayer. Okay? Probably not what you were expecting me to say. Well, let me flesh that out a little bit. I mean, I currently make my living by praying, as does Anya. We pray for a living, in a sense. We're both chaplains. But let me flesh that out a little bit. This isn't just about me and my relationship to prayer. It's in our tradition as well. So I was saying Zen Buddhism is a wisdom tradition, and as are all the Abrahamic faiths as well, as is the tradition of Western philosophy. That Sophie in philosophy is the word wisdom. Wisdom is at the heart of our tradition. It's at the heart of our tradition in terms of Prajna Paramita. Prajna, the figure to the left of the Buddha on our altar, that is the figure of Prajna Paramita. That word name just means Prajna, wisdom, Paramita, the perfection. There she is up on our altar. We refer to her as the mother of all Buddhas, as Buddha Eye. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. And last week, for the new year, we celebrated the new year by doing this very vigorous ceremony of fanning the many scriptures of Prajna Paramita. And if you're here on a weekday at lunchtime, there's also a sort of mini version of that fanning of the scriptures about, in honor of, in veneration to Prajna Paramita. And then twice a week we chant the hymn to the perfection of wisdom. We actually pray. I mean, these are veneration patterns, right? Rituals. We pray to Prajna, which is kind of interesting. Socrates in the West defined himself as a lover of wisdom, dedicated to Sophia. In Judeo-Christian, in the Abrahamic faiths, in the book of Proverbs, right, you can read something like this, which, as you'll see in a minute, sounds a lot like our hymn to the perfection of wisdom. This is from the book of Proverbs, the first chapter. Do not forsake wisdom, and she will protect you. Love her, and she will watch over you. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. Beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. Though it cost all you have, get understanding. The Hebrew word for wisdom is chokhmah, and it's completely analogous to the word Sophia in Greek or to Prajna in Sanskrit. Get wisdom, get chokhmah. Cherish her, and she will exalt you. Embrace her, and she will honor you. She will give you a garland to grace your head and present you with a glorious crown. Cherish her, and she will exalt you. Do not forsake her. In Sanskrit, Greek, and Hebrew, these words for wisdom are all gendered feminine, right? So within the logic of, human language, where you have languages that have genders, that have that kind of binary structure. Ideas like wisdom get gendered feminine. She, wisdom, do not forsake her. So in our tradition, we have this hymn to the perfection of wisdom. Esho, this is the cue. So I was thinking we would actually chant this together, and then I'm going to talk about it a little bit. So there are chant books, and then I have some copies of it because I'm not sure we have enough chant books. It's on page 16 in the blue covered chant book. I probably moved. Oh, just one. Is this making sense so far? How is it that we know what we know? How do we find the answers? So does everyone have a copy of the hymn? So this is, these words are, this is scripture. This is Shariputra, a disciple of the Buddha, talking to the Buddha in dialogue. This is from the large, when I was saying that Hojo-san was doing this vigorous ceremony with the scriptures of the Prajna Paramitas, the Prajna Paramita scriptures. This is from those scriptures.
Hymn to the perfection of wisdom.
Of wisdom is worthy of reverence. The perfection of wisdom is worthy of respect. The perfection of wisdom shines forth as sublime light. She is unstained. The entire world cannot stain her. She is an ever-flowing fountain of incomparable light, and from every conscious being on every plane she removes the faintest trace of darkness. She leads living beings into her light from the blindness caused by defilements and wrong views. In her we can find shelter. Sublime and excellent are her words. She inspires and guides us to seek the safety and certainty of the bright wings of enlightenment. She pours forth healing light to those who are blind. She brings light so that all fear and all despair may be forsaken. She manifests the five mystic eyes, showing the path to all beings, and is herself a boundless eye of wisdom. She dissipates entirely the gloom and darkness of delusion. She does nothing about all Dharma, simply by shining spontaneously. She guides to the spiritual path whatever beings have wandered into dangerous, negative, self-centered ways. She never produces any Dharma because she has forsaken all residues of defilement and cognition. Neither does she stop any Dharma, herself being unstoppable and unproduced, to those beings who dedicate their mind streams to the liberation and full enlightenment of all that live. She is known as the Great Mother. She is empty of a part. She is the universal benefactress who presents such a sublime offering being, the limitless jewel of all Buddha qualities, the miraculous gem which generates the 10 inconceivable powers of a Buddha. She protects the unprotected, inspiring in them unshakable fearlessness and diamond confidence. She is the perfect antidote to the cycle of birth and death. She is the clear knowledge of the unbeing of all dharmas, her transcendent knowing never wavers. She is the perfect wisdom who gives birth to all Buddhas. Mother Prajna Paramita, who turns the wheel of the true teaching.
Having, let's just do a very brief echo for that, having chanted. If we say a prayer, even if we say it as part of a Dharma talk, we do need to dedicate the merits. It's what we do.
Having chanted the hymn to the perfection of wisdom, we reverently offer the merit to the mother of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the great instructor of perfection, Maha Prajna Paramita, to the eternal three jewels in the 10 directions. That we may continue to serve and protect the Dharma radiance. We further offer this merit to the countless sages in the ocean of Buddhahood, to the 16 Arhats, and to all worthy ones who have nurtured the Dharma to our benefit today. We pay special homage to all women ancestral teachers of the Buddha Dharma. Reflecting on the Great Mother, we resolve to kindle awakening and extend the wind of Dharma without discrimination or hesitancy to all beings, regardless of form or circumstance. We pray that through the force of true wisdom, the age of counterfeit Dharma turn to the age of true Dharma, that all beings be led to the uncreated, that the two wheels continuously turn, and that all disasters be prevented from afflicting the land.
Whew. So what is that? What is that? That activity of speaking these words, having this image on our altar, then dedicating the words to the mother of all Buddhas, invoking women ancestral teachers, bringing forward all of that energy. What is that? You know, I was sort of joking that, you know, some of us pray for a living, but, you know, prayer, the way we understand prayer, and I think one of the reasons why in Western Buddhism, it's often very confusing. Like, is this a religion? Is this a philosophy? Well, was Socrates a philosopher? What does it mean to be a I mean, that distinction. In the West, we're a little bit confused about these things. Like, where is wisdom? What is it? Right? Does that make sense? We're like, is this philosophy? Is this religion? Because we think about prayer in our culture so predominantly from a monotheistic perspective of a creator God and this big gulf between the creator and the created, right? And, you know, I was thinking about, there's this beautiful book by Annie Lamott, who's just one of my favorite spiritual writers. Any of you familiar with her? She's got this thin little book called Help thanks. No, yeah, help, thanks, wow. And it's about prayer. And she says, okay, there are 3 types of prayer. The first type, and they can come in any order, but like intellectually, she's breaking it down. She says the first one is help. This is like the hardest thing because it's surrender. It's the first step, right? It's like, I don't know what, like, I don't have the answers. I don't know what I'm doing. Help. This emptying out of the self. There's nothing here. It's all out there, right? That kenosis is a word for this in religion, like this emptying of self. Help. Help me from the outside in. And then when the help is received, thanks. So who are we thanking? We're thanking that outside. So those prayers first of petition, of asking for help, and then prayers of thanksgiving, and then the third kind of prayer, wow, that's praise, like the hymn to the perfection of wisdom. It's like, wow, right? But it's being in awe of something out there that we have been able to call to in our emptiness, right? Am I making sense here? And yet, in the hymn to the perfection of wisdom, what do we learn about the perfection of wisdom, about Prajna Paramita? We learn that she does nothing about all dharmas. Dharma with a small d, as we sometimes say. This is just all stuff. She does nothing about things. Really? I'm a thing? Does she do nothing about me? Right? So we're instructed that this figure that we are praying to, what? She's not out there? She's not going to help? She does nothing about all things. Simply by shining spontaneously, she guides to the spiritual path whatever beings have wandered into dangerous, negative, self-centered ways. How does that work if she's not out there? Does this question make sense? This dilemma of, well, what is this? And yet, I don't know. I mean, again, this is like my little illustration with the cards. For some of us, we pick up the card and go, oh my God, that card is for me. Oh my God, I said a little unconsciously. Oh goodness, that card is for me. And for some of us, we chant something like that and our heart goes, oh, we feel something, some of us don't. But we did something together just now. What was that? So my first movement around the center in this Dharma talk, and the next 2 will be briefer, so we have some time for questions, but is, prayer. It's like, well, that's about things being out there, but how can the answers be out there in a tradition that is non-dual, that's not setting up a separation between me and out there? That is a tradition that says things like, wisdom is empty of own marks. There's no like thing there that is wisdom. You are empty of own marks. You are not, there's not a thing here that is Myobun. We're not separate entities. So how does this work? Well, the classic answer in our tradition is, yeah, it's not about what's out there exactly. It's about training. There's this path of training that we do here. And the classic description of that path of training rests on a notion of what we call bodhicitta, the mind of awakening, this spark, something, what is it in me? This thought, this aspiration to wake up. This word bodhicitta, I'm sorry I'm using like a lot of these terms, but I was an English professor for a long time. So, and my name Myobun, by the way, means inconceivable letters, like words, right? So, Hojo-san called it. He's like, yeah, you're a word person. Guess what? You can't grasp words either, but I'm going to try. Okay. So bodhicitta, this word for that, whatever it is in me, that which is seeking, which is also that which is guiding me, calling me to seek. Bodhicitta, that word, literally, it's a compound word. Bodhi means awakening. Citta means heart or mind. So that bodhicitta often gets translated as the thought of awakening. And Subhuti, one of the Buddha's disciples in the Diamond Sutra, Subhuti famously, this is a classic place where this question comes up. He says to the Buddha, how do I do this thing? How should I conduct myself? How should I move about in the world? How should I lead a good, ethical life? And the Buddha says, give rise to a thought. And the thought the Buddha invites the Buddha to give rise to is give rise to a thought that all beings are interconnected, that there is no separate you or you or you or you. We're all interconnected. Give rise to that thought. That giving rise to that thought is bodhicitta. But check it out, give rise to that thought. Bodhicitta can mean the thought of awakening, like the idea of it, but it can also mean, like literally, awakening mind, like that mind that is already awakened, right? And that's the thing about training in our tradition. So giving rise to the thought is this thing we did for 20 minutes after service. It's zazen, it's samadhi. It's like, okay, let me set myself down here and let me sit with everything. You know, as the guy says to the hot dog vendor, make me one with everything. Little Dharma joke. Very little Dharma joke. But we sit and we settle into, we let arise the idea that I'm not separate from the world, that there's no enduring separate self here, that there's no me versus you, no creature versus creator. We're all in this soup together. So this is zazen. This is the practice of samadhi, of absorption, of meditation. But Subhudi's question is also like, what do I do? It's also the question of ethics. Like, how do I live in the world? And it's also the question of prajna, of wisdom. Give rise to the thought that we're all in this together. Give rise to a wise, awakened heart. So what the Buddha said to Subhuti is train, and he's laid out the threefold training path that is at the heart of our tradition, that we meditate, we try to live an ethical life, and we try to become wise. We meditate, samadhi, we try to live an ethical life. Shila is the Sanskrit word for ethics or morality or good conduct. And we try to embody a wise and awakened heart, prajna. So very classically, the Dharma, the training path of Dharma is broken down into those three traditions. Why am I highlighting this today? Well, because in fact, this winter and spring, Tuesday nights, we're going to be, this is my little pitch for our Tuesday night classes. We're going to be sort of offering our classes in line with that. So I'm going to be doing, not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday, a few classes on prajna. And then GKA in mid-February is going to be doing some classes on, starting in mid-February, on samadhi, thinking about the heart of zazen. And then I'm going to come back in April and teach classes on ethics and the precepts and morality. Threefold training path. So how do we find the answers? How do we know the answers when we find them? We train. We sit a whole bunch of zazen. We try to encounter that truth of our interconnection. We train. And yet, training. And training is a weird thing. Have any of you ever trained at a sport or trained in some other way out in the world, the non-spiritual world? Yeah. So when we train, like, I don't know, I trained years ago. I ran a marathon. I actually ran 2 marathons because when I ran the press, like, it's not good if you just do it once. You got to do it again. You know, we Zen people, we tend to be a little bit crazy about this sort of thing with training, right? We tend to like push, but I was pushing myself to a finish line, right? Literally a finish line. I was pushing myself to a goal. So we tend to think about training as something in line with that which is external. That which is external. It's all me doing something out there in the world. So training is a weird thing. What does it mean to train in wisdom? Like, as if wisdom is out there. Aren't we back to the problem I was just kind of talking about? Well, it's here that I want to bring up this central other name for Prajna Paramita. She's referred to as the mother of all Buddhas because it starts with wisdom. Wisdom is at the core. But she's also referred to as Buddha I, as in the name of our temple, as in the Dharma name of Hojo-san's teacher, Buddha I. The I, like I, E-Y-E. Super intense metaphor. Let's think about eyes for a minute. Are you guys with me so far? Ready to, okay. Let's think about eyes. So eyes, at the center of our eyes is this hole, this aperture, the iris, that makes, well, the iris is the muscle around it, that makes space for light to come in. It's completely black, it's completely empty, right? We only see because there's this hole in us, there's this emptiness in us. Light can enter the eye because there's darkness that is the eye. Right? The eye and sight is such a profound, I want to say metaphor, but it's not just a metaphor, right? I mean, this is like a reality of how we orient those of us who are, who are sighted beings. Not all of us have vision. How we orient toward the world. And it's not just about what's out there. It's about this aperture in us that receives, and then this being that we are that does something with the light that is received. It's this reciprocity, this process of seeing, this process of sight. Wisdom is fundamentally about our desire to see in the most profound sense of that word. So in the Hymn to the Perfection of Wisdom, one of the things that we're told about the perfection of wisdom is that she manifests the 5 mystic eyes. So this isn't like 5 eyes. This is 5 ways to talk about the functioning of the eye. And again, the Diamond Sutra is the place where that's laid out for us, this teaching of the 5 eyes. So in the Diamond Sutra, we learn that there's the physical eye. The physical eye is like all of us. I mean, the thing about literal sight, right, is I see from a position. I see what is available to me here. I don't see what's behind me. I have to turn to make sure that Esther is still there, right? The physical eye is a vision, an understanding that is partial because it is grounded in a specific point of view, right? But next to the physical eye is what the Buddha in the Diamond Sutra calls the divine eye. And the divine eye, I mean, it sounds like all fancy, but this is just the eye of our mind. So even though I can't see Esho right now, I'm pretty darn sure that she's still there because I've got, yes, nailed it. Because I can form concepts. So because we're beings that form, for instance, concepts, we grasp the world. And so it's not just our partial position. I can actually kind of wrap my mind around things that I will never actually be able to experience with this limited fleshy thing that I am. I can grasp through my divine eye, my ability to understand wholeness through using words and concepts and images and metaphor. I can grasp things like infinity. I can grasp things like, I don't know, Australia, never been there. I can grasp things like Myobun. Like, I don't know the wholeness of my being I change every day, right? But I have an idea of Myobun. So the divine eye is the eye that's able to form wholes, W-H-O-L-E, right? But then the Buddha goes on to say, yeah, okay, that's great. But there is also, he says, I just want to make sure I don't miss, okay, the Prajna eye. And the Prajna eye, the wisdom eye in a little sense, is the eye that says, yeah, but those holes that you're grasping, they're empty. And we were able to kind of make sense of that idea of emptiness a little bit. Like, there is no enduring self. I can kind of hold that idea, sort of, right? There are two more eyes, though. And this is where we get to the five mystic eyes that is Prajna Paramita, the perfection of wisdom. There's also the Dharma eye, because once I've seen through the world and said, it's all just empty and oneness. This sometimes happens, like, when you get this really long view of things, you're like, we're all going to die. We're all going to die. And yet, not today. I'm not going to die right now. Right? That long view misses the point of the truth and preciousness of this very moment. So the Dharma eye comes along after the Prajna eye and says, okay, but actually I can penetrate that all things are empty and we're all interconnected, but actually here's a being that I'm encountering, Sega, right? I can grasp that, yeah, we're all empty, but there's actually me and there's actually you in this moment, in this encounter. And then there's the Buddha eye that can see all of these layers at once. That Buddha eye is the eye of Prajna Paramita, this eye that sees it all. So, how do I find the answer? I think I come back to the truth of our embodied practice together. I come back to Prajna as this thing we do here together in our chanting, in our sitting, in our talking, in our drinking coffee, in our drinking tea, in our eating cookies, gluten-free and otherwise. Right? I think of this ultimately as the path of devotion, a path that is not going to settle into it's out there or it's simply in here. I'm going to train my way through it, or the answers are out there in some way that I have to reach for. But in like the imagery of sight, of eyes, this interrelationship between what I think is inside and what I think is outside, in this activity of trying to see, trying to understand, trying to activate this wise and awakened heart that we all share together in this assembly. Okay, let me stop there and see if there are any questions or comments. Yeah.
The first part where you talked about Sophia and don't forsake her. Where did that come from again?
Well, I was reading from the Bible.
Oh,
That was from Proverbs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, it's right there in the Bible, don't forsake wisdom. But we can find similar statements in so many of the world religions and traditions. This wisdom, this leaning into our ability to see with our minds, our hearts, to see with our eyes. But why do you ask, Gongxin?
Oh, because Sophia has just been in my realm as of yesterday, all day, and then you came up with that. And I'm just looking for sources and more connection.
This wisdom, what is it? I don't know if this question resonates for others, but Lamia.
I wanted to know how in your tradition you think about knowledge and wisdom, because knowledge is not wisdom, because a knowledgeable person may not be a wise person, right? But wisdom cannot exist without knowledge, right? You have to have knowledge to become. So if you could just elaborate on that.
Yeah, I mean, this I think is the whole thing. It's like you ever have this experience that you sort of understand something and then you, a little bit later, you understand it better, and then you understand it better still? Like, was the first understanding not true? This capacity we have to know things, knowledge in the way you're talking about it, relies upon whatever it is in us that's already wise. however wisdom is a part of our lives, it is how we recognize things as, oh yeah, I get it. Yeah. And then we get it more deeply, and then we get it more deeply, and we get it more deeply. So it's not a dichotomy. It is, in fact, and this is what the Prajna Paramita scriptures are all about. This is what I'll talk about more in class. But, how it is that this sense of us being interconnected actually is the beautiful truth that allows us to find our way, even when we just have a little taste of knowledge, but we're not wise. That was not a very satisfying answer,
No,
but okay. Okay.
It is satisfying.
Okay.
Myobun,
Mariah?
I woke this morning and my plan was to go down town to the First Christian Church, where in the past they have a breakfast every Sunday prior to the beginning of their services, and the breakfast is welcoming to anyone, particularly to those who wander our streets. Anyway, I hadn't been down probably for 3 years because apparently it was suspended for COVID. So I went down and I just touched base with a person who was doing some cleanup around the church landscaping, and I said, "Do you know if there's still a breakfast?" And and he looked at me rather surprised. He said, "Well, there hasn't been for 3 years." And I thought, oh, I guess that's how long I was gone this time. So I had a little discretionary time. So I just wandered around downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that early in the morning, particularly on a Sunday morning, there aren't many people about on Sunday mornings. They're not rushing to services, or some of them are, but a little later. But early in the morning on Sunday, it's a good opportunity to go downtown and experience, well, who is downtown early in the morning? Well, it's those who wander. It's the homeless. It's the people with brain disease in large number. And they're just kind of rousing and pulling themselves together, because soon, when everyone wakes up, they're going to have to disperse. Anyway, it's, I don't have to tell you this, you know this, but it's a question that I've been grappling with for 14 years. Since I'm now a 14-year survivor of brain disease. But it's I'm getting some clarity around that. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, thank you, Mariah. Yeah, we're actually all wandering. And we're all literally in this together.
Indeed. Sometimes that's not apparent.
No, of course not. So kind of you.
Thank you for your talk. You opened with we already have all the answers. I've been kind of mulling that question over, and how my immediate response is hell no. And so I kind of been pulling that apart through the course of your talk. It made me think about the storehouse consciousness in relation to the Yogacara. And I feel like a lot of practice for me has been, my understanding of the world is this dark storehouse that I need teachers to shine a light on the appropriate things on the shelf, because I have a lot of answers inside of me. Which ones are the right ones for that moment is the other question that I'm always searching for. And I feel like the the deep need I have for a wisdom tradition like this and for good teachers is to help highlight, pull out the right answers. Because it's true that when someone does shine a light, you're like, oh yeah, right, I knew that. But yeah, I would also, get cut off by a car and it almost killed me and punch him out. That would also be a right answer. I would dig out. It wouldn't be the wisest response, perhaps, but it's an answer I would pull forth.
I'll keep that in mind, Sokai. No, I mean, we are all in this together, and I think it's all of our scriptures, I think, are bits and pieces that we recite on a regular basis, are bits and pieces of dialogue, so we chant the hymn to the perfection of wisdom. That is Shariputra talking to the Buddha. We don't do this alone. So it's the movement of the eye. There is light and there is darkness, and they have to work together, or there's no sight. So yeah, thank goodness we're all in this, because we'd really be sunk if we weren't.